All right. Yes. War is always a popular topic. World War III, people will lead with that often and say, or that we're about to get nuked. So are we really going to war with China? Well, kind of the way we're talking. That's all. The lab leak news has to do with that. We're trying to ramp things up. Then there were the balloons. So I was just going to present that to you guys today, just so you be aware that it's time. It's time. We've decided it's time to take on our enemy, China. So don't be surprised if it goes all the way up to a conflict of some sort. But I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow or anything. You guys doing okay? People have been talking about snow in California, where I am, where there was a lot of rain and apparently a lot of snow too. But fortunately, we're doing okay here. All right. So what's in the news? I'll tell you guys what's in the news. I have a lot of different stuff. I have a lot of different stuff. We can give you an update on Scott Adams. We can give you an update on the latest trans news, because there's always a section of trans news. So I have a section of it today. I have negative information, derogatory information about Ron DeSantis. It would be better for me. I'm pretty sure. I think it's better to support Trump for people. That's why people do it, I think, is because people prefer it. People prefer Trump so far. So I need to look out for those people who are watching my show who want to hear negative things about Ron DeSantis. So I'm going to present some negative things about Ron DeSantis today. They call him Meatball. That's a funny nickname, Meatball. And they say he's wearing platform shoes too. So we'll have all that stuff. Negative information about all the candidates that are running for president. So I'll present that to you guys today. I have news from Ukraine. Zelensky says people are talking about a draft. So I'm here to tell you guys what's in the news, right? People are saying, "Oh, are you ready to get drafted?" So that's what they say. That's what guys have this conversation. Like, "Oh yeah, are you worried you're going to get drafted?" I'm thinking about it. So that's a normal conversation now in America, because Zelensky says that Americans are going to die over there eventually. So it seems like, so we're ready. We're ready to perform. I am going to join the Space Force if they require me to serve. I'll join the Space Force. There's a Space Force base right near where I live. I wouldn't even have to move. So, because I figure, I don't know what they're doing up there anyway. They probably don't do any real fighting, right? I am against violence, philosophically. I don't even kill bugs most of the time. Most of the time. I like those little guys. So anyway, that is news that people are saying. Zelensky says, "Hey, Americans, you're going to die over here one way or another. So you might as well strap on your boots now and come on by, sign up." So that's going on. And then the war on top of that is the war with China. So we have war with Russia, then we have war with China. So what else is in the news? Oh, Hershey's. Now, that's part of the trans news segment. Hershey's is part of this trans news segment. So it's Women's History Month, right? So naturally, when you think of a woman, you think of a trans woman, and you want to put them out front for Women's History Month, right? Right? Everybody does. Woman of the Year should be a trans woman. So it's actually, they were born a man or male. Now they identify as female, and now we're going to put them out in front on Women's History Month. Yeah. So Women's History Month, trans women being featured. So by a candy company. So I'll show you that. So it's time to boycott Hershey, I'm told. Could have run with that as the title. So I have that news. We want to talk. I'll talk about some drama. Oh, yes. And I would be remiss not to cover the thing from Arizona. Have you guys heard about it? This is the biggest conspiracy theory. Now, I said 15-minute cities was, I heard, the biggest international conspiracy theory. So it used to be the Great Reset. That was the biggest conspiracy theory. And then the vaccine at some point. What did I say? Oh, the biggest conspiracy theory now, and this time right now, is the Sinaloa cartel controlling things in Arizona and bribing officials and stuff based on this one lady testifying in front of their house. So I'll show it to you. People are talking about it. They're like, oh my God, corruption revealed. So I have to show it to you, and then I'll let you know what evidence there is of like everybody being bribed, including Katie Hobbs being under the thumb of the Sinaloa drug cartel. It's a real story. So I'll show you that. And I'll do those stories in no particular order. And I might even throw more in there. I might even throw in some stories about AI, about Justin Bieber. I have so much stuff. So all that and more on this Lift the Veil show.
Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news.
Yes. Someone in the chat says there aren't that many that can pass the fitness test. That's true. People are so fat. You could make yourself so fat that you couldn't even qualify, but then they'll just change the rules and say, oh, well, we said no fat people. We said no felons. We said no mentally ill people before, but. So we want to let be all inclusive. The army has to be inclusive too, and that includes fat people. Or what do you call them? Is fat okay to say? Probably not, right? That's probably a derogatory. It's probably, what do you used to say? Overweight? Big boned? Remember when they used to say big boned? Oh, he's just big boned. They say that anymore? All right, I'll play you. First of all, I was just going to tell you the stuff with the government, the FBI, Christopher Wray confirmed the lab leak. And people are still calling it a conspiracy theory. See if I can show you. I have an article where they actually call it here. So the FBI, the Department of Energy said it's from a lab. Jon Stewart famously said he thought it was probably from a lab. The crazy thing about it, to me, is it always seemed like it was from a lab, like that was the most plausible explanation. But you can only attribute it to, I'll actually tell you the psychological reason. But look at this story. It says reports on COVID origin reignite conspiracy theories about the virus. So even though now we have the emails where originally somebody told Dr. Fauci, hey, it looks like it was engineered, even though it was in Wuhan, where the lab was, even though they were working on bat coronaviruses, even though they were working on gain of function, and that's what it seemed like the virus was. They're still saying reports on COVID origin reignite conspiracy theories about the virus. That's so crazy to me. Like, what's the conspiracy theory? It's the thing that makes the most sense. It's just the thing that makes the most logical sense, especially when you take into account that they haven't found a zoonotic origin. They haven't been able to find if it came from an animal. They think it came from an animal, which I guess some people still do, right? They think it came from an animal, but they can't find out can't figure out which one. And they haven't found a particular trace. And also some people got sick from the lab, all this stuff. But no, it's still a conspiracy theory. And the reason people still think that is because of something called motivated reasoning. I saw Nate Silver tweet about this. Motivated reasoning. I'll tell you what that is. The reason that people come up with different, I've been looking into different things, I try to look at the other side of stuff because I've looked at information before and come to the wrong conclusion. And maybe it was the conclusion that I wanted to come to. So the fact that there are other people out there who have different opinions, especially about the vaccine, but also about the origins of the virus, are motivated to have those thoughts, are motivated to look at the data that supports their argument. So when I see people on Twitter, I follow people who, after Christopher Wray said it came from a lab, literally like, oh my God, Christopher Wray's crazy. This is a crazy conspiracy theory. I can't believe the FBI is saying that. I can't believe the Department of Energy is saying it came from a lab. That's so crazy. And it just feeds the conspiracy theorists. I think to myself, what's wrong with those people? Motivated reasoning. I'll show you. I'll just read you a little. It says this. In broad terms, motivated reasoning theory suggests that reasoning processes, information selection and evaluation, memory encoding, attitude formation, judgment, and decision-making are influenced by motivations or goals. Motivations are desired end states that individuals want to achieve. Okay? So because people have motivations, they come to different conclusions. And like, you have to realize that you have motivations. You want to believe certain conspiracy theories. You want to reinforce certain biases. For example, like that poll that came out that Scott Adams got in so much trouble for, that poll could have been interpreted different ways. If you're motivated to think that Black people hate white people, then you're going to read that poll and come away with that conclusion, like Scott Adams did, like a bunch of people did. If you're motivated to think that actually Black people don't hate white people, then you're going to read that poll and you can come away with the same poll with a different conclusion. Scott Adams concluded that poll says Black people hate white people. The Washington Examiner, which is also conservative, took the completely opposite point of view. Said, actually, if you read the poll, it shows that the programming is not working. Most Black people don't agree that saying this thing that everybody says is racist is racist. So that's motivated reasoning for you. people are motivated to believe that the lab leak theory is a conspiracy theory. Now, why are they talking about it? That's why I was talking about war with China. Why are they talking about it now when they've probably known for a while? And apparently the FBI said something about it before too. Let me show you. Oh, well, they're talking about it now because we're trying to start shit with China. And it's not the only thing we're starting shit with China about. Damn it. Where's the tab? I have so many tabs open. I have Christopher Wray. Confirming. There it is. Got it. I have Christopher Wray confirming as a lab leak. Dr. Malone saying it's a limited hangout. And then people wonder, why is he saying it's a limited hangout? Well, it did come from a lab. But the motivation for saying so has to do with starting shit with China, which we're doing on other fronts too, like the balloon and like TikTok. I'll show you the TikTok news. So this is what Christopher Wray said on Fox News. I'll play that for you.
I asked you also back then about the investigation into COVID origins. Is the FBI in charge of the investigation of the origins of the coronavirus?
We certainly have a role in looking into the origins of the coronavirus.
Now there's this Department of Energy study that says it's likely to have come from a lab leak, although the confidence is low. It cites the FBI. What is the determination by the FBI?
So, as you note, Brett, the FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan. Let me step back for a second. You know, the FBI has folks, agents, professionals, analysts, virologists, microbiologists, et cetera, who focus specifically on the dangers of biological threats, which include things like novel viruses like COVID, and the concerns that in the wrong hands, some bad guys, a hostile nation state, a terrorist, a criminal, the threats that those could pose. So here you're talking about a potential leak from a Chinese government-controlled lab that killed millions of Americans, and that's precisely what that capability was designed for. I should add that our work related to this continues. And there are not a whole lot of details I can share that aren't classified. I will just make the observation that the Chinese government seems to me has been doing its best to try to thwart and obfuscate the work here, the work that we're doing, the work that our U.S. government and close foreign partners are doing. And that's unfortunate for everybody.
Yeah, so that's it. So you heard the part where he switches and he says, China is covering up. I'll show you what the FBI put, like the statement the FBI put out, which is pretty revealing. So this is the statement they put out from that interview, which I just showed. The FBI has for quite some time now assessed the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan. I will just make the observation that the Chinese government has been doing its best to try to thwart and obfuscate the work here, the work that we're doing, the work that our U.S. government and close foreign partners are doing. See, it's a shot at China. It's a shot at China. So I think that's the motivation, basically. It seems like, just reading the tea leaves and stuff, the balloons, then the lab leak. The lab leak is a shot at China, but it's a limited hangout because they're going to try to put all the blame on China and say they covered it up, which they did, I'm sure. So I'm sure there's evidence that the Chinese covered it up. So they'll use that. And it's just a way to ramp up tensions with China because we feel like we have to win this war we're in with China to be the best. So that's all it's about. And then on top of that, we're banning TikTok. So it looks like it's happening in China and the United States. So it's happening in a bunch of places. Right here, I'll show you. TikTok faces bans in the United States and other countries. Here's why. So it's basically like China's. It's like people are going after China. So the thing about this TikTok ban is if they do it, I don't know if they'll ban TikTok in the United States or if Apple or will decide to unlist the app. But if they do, it could really help out Elon Musk once again, by being helped out by the government. So, I mean, because he can resurrect Vine, which was a short video app that Twitter had before that just didn't take off like TikTok. So he could design that, and it could be the American version of TikTok, and his Twitter purchase would be totally worthwhile. If we decide to ban TikTok, then that would be a real opportunity for Elon Musk to take over. So anyway, that's it. So that's the war on China. I think that's the extent of it. Balloons, TikTok, lab leak. You can tell we're going after them, basically. There's breaking news as I went live. If you guys have been following it, it came up as the top story on the news site I was just on. Murdaugh, that guy was found guilty. My wife's been listening to the trial. I haven't really that much. I heard the evidence wasn't that great against him for murder. But breaking news. John says Logan Paul came from Vine. I didn't know that. Yeah, Vine is a short video app. Yeah, I mean, if they ban TikTok, then somebody else could take over. YouTube is, I don't know if you guys watch YouTube Shorts. I haven't been doing as many. I haven't had any ideas for them. I think I'm just too old. You know, I think it's like a young man's game. I think I'm getting too old to do YouTube videos. I'm not sure though. I don't know. I feel like you want to appeal to young people, then I don't know. We're figuring it out. Here's the news. I told you guys that people are worried about getting drafted for the Ukraine. So on the TV news, so Zelensky says they want to take back Crimea too, which is crazy. Okay. We keep sending them money, even though they say they want to do things that are crazy, like take back Crimea. So it's interesting to see the news also say that it's going to be impossible to take back Crimea. Oh, let me share this. If you want to support the show, we only have a few people here tuned in tonight. So thanks for the tip over on Rockfin. Thanks, Fogan Filter. I really appreciate it. So if you want to support the show, you can leave a super chat, or you can leave a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. You can help make it feel like this is a professional show and like people really listen. Buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. You can leave a coffee and leave a note, and I will read it on the show. And you can become a member. If you become a member and send me a message or an email, I'll send you a code for a free t-shirt too. So anyway, this is this guy on MSNBC basically saying what wasn't allowed to be said before. So let me play that.
President Zelensky vowed on Sunday to take back Crimea. How realistic is that? The people there whom you spoke to view themselves as Russian.
That's right. From those people that we spoke to, it seemed unrealistic. And Andrew, I want to show you some new picture that we filmed yesterday at the port of Sevastopol. Now, this is the closest that any US news crew has got to the Russian Black Sea fleet in many, many years. What you're seeing here are President Putin's ships at that port. Why it's important is because Vladimir Putin will be determined to defend that port, to not have it taken away from him. He may well do pretty much anything to try to achieve that. And the reason why is because it is so strategically important to Russia. But here's the irony. The fact since he launched that invasion a year ago in Ukraine, Ukrainians now will be determined not to have the Black Sea Fleet there, potentially threatening their coast for years to come. So it is a very, very dangerous standoff that suggests that this could pan out for some time to come. It's hard to see how you reach a negotiation over that. And there in Sevastopol, Andrew, I've got to tell you, I mean, there was just military everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It is a military town. So again, when, for example, Victoria Nuland talks about, at the very least, we want Crimea to be demilitarized, I found myself standing there and wondering, how on earth does that happen?
And Keir, we keep hearing that Crimea is exactly what NATO and the U.S. fear Zelensky will try to go into with long-range weapons, maybe even with those F-16s if he ever were to get them, which I don't think he will, not in the near term. They're worried that that is a tripwire for Vladimir Putin. What is your take on that?
That's what they are worried about. I mean, that we're standing in the place that has Jake Sullivan, for example, really worried, Andrew. And the reason why is because the idea that NATO weapons might kind of land on this place, potentially kill Russian civilians, and that would be an escalation. But by the way, this is an enormous challenge, and General Mark Milley has made this clear. This is an enormous challenge for the Ukrainians. Here's why. Let's just give you a close-up look at that bridge behind me there. That's how we traveled into Crimea. It is open now. It is one of only two ways to get here. The other is a land bridge over to the northwest of here that is very, very much exposed. So with land forces, how do you take Crimea if you are the Ukrainians? That's why General Mark Milley says he thinks that it will be extremely difficult for the Ukrainians to push the Russians out of here. We have seen substantial defenses around this bridge behind me that is President Putin's pride and joy, Andrea, and that's not surprising. But as we saw in my piece, I mean, we also know that the Ukrainians have wanted, or at least they haven't admitted it, but it seems pretty likely that it was the Ukrainians that they've wanted to target that bridge behind me there. Again, if you take down that bridge, how do the civilians leave? These are very, very difficult questions if we do get to the point where Crimea is an objective that the Ukrainians realistically can look at militarily.
Okay, so he said that, right, which is basically like it would be really hard to take Crimea. That's not really a realistic goal. And then he ended up on a hit list from Ukraine. So he ended up on this hit list. There he is. So this is posted by Max Blumenthal. So Max is asking what the NBC thinks about their reporter going on a hit list because he said it would be difficult to take Crimea for Ukraine. So just telling the truth, which is weird to hear. So that's why I played it. It's weird to hear people tell the truth. So anyway, that's that story. That's Russia, war with Crimea. People telling the truth on TV, which is weird. Okay. Woody Harrelson was on SNL. He doubled down on what he said. I think what he said was kind of sanctioned by SNL. I think they were okay with it. Woody Harrelson came out and did an interview with the New York Times where he said COVID set protocols are nonsense, says Hollywood should stop forcing vaccination and that we don't live in a free country. He called the COVID protocols absurd. He said, quote, I don't think that anybody should have the right to demand that you're forced to do the testing, forced to wear the mask, and forced to get vaccinated 3 years on. I'm just like, let's be done with this nonsense. It's not fair to the crews. I don't have to wear a mask. Why should they? Why should they have to be vaccinated? How's that not up to the individual? I shouldn't be talking about this, he says. So, which Tim Robbins agreed with on Twitter. which it is crazy in Hollywood. I know some people who work in Hollywood, and they still have all these mandates. He continued, quote, "It makes me angry for the crew. The anarchist part of me, I don't feel that we should have forced testing, forced masking, and forced vaccination. That's not a free country. Really, I'm talking about the crew, because I can get out of wearing a mask. I can test less. I'm not in the same position they're in, but it's wrong. It's 3 years. Stop. As an anarchist, I don't do well with mandates," he said. So he doubled down on what he said on SNL, even though they called him an anti-vaxxer. But maybe they'll finally get rid of some of the COVID protocols, because, yeah, they still have full-on COVID protocols in Hollywood. Just wanted to say Justin Bieber canceled his tour because he's got that face problem, face paralysis health issue. Some people are saying that it's because of something. Some people are saying it's because of something. And I noted that both Celine Dion and Justin Bieber are both huge music stars. And they both had to cancel their tours because they have some kind of weird, super rare illness. In Justin Bieber's case, it is Ramsay Hunt syndrome, partial paralysis of the face. So Justin Bieber's out on tour. Do I have more news about the vax? I think that's all I have about the vax today. Oh, I had a clip about the lab leak and why we didn't listen to the lab leak in the first place. Let's see. Why did we not listen to the lab leak theory in the first place, according to The View? I'll play that for you. We're kind of jumping around. According to The View, why did the lab leak get discredited?
Trump unleashed this xenophobia. He stopped allowing Chinese people to come to the country. He then started calling it the
Don't even say it. Don't
yeah,
even
he
say
called
it.
it something, and he kept on saying China, China, and doing this thing where I was even concerned as someone who had lost family members for Manny to even bring it up. And that is really sad.
The last guy before Biden said anything about this, he made it about Asian people. And I'm sure Jon Stewart didn't realize that that's what was happening, because I'm sure he didn't know what was going on all over the country with Asian folks getting smacked and hit and people saying stuff to them about bringing the disease here. I mean, this was what was happening. And if you know who had not started it with that, had he not made it about that, had he said, listen, this might have come out of a lab, it probably would have been listened to a lot differently.
There you go. That's funny. So if it hadn't been, I think they're saying if it hadn't been Trump saying it, then people would have taken it more seriously. If it hadn't been Trump saying that it was a lab leak, then it wouldn't have been dismissed, because Trump was so racist and Asians were literally getting assaulted on the street, which I don't think I believe. But they say Asians were getting assaulted because of a lab leak theory. So anyway, pretty much of a stretch. So we discredit true information because of who it comes from. In this case, Trump. If it hadn't been for Trump. So there you go. All right. Let me see. The big conspiracy theory. Should I tell you about that? And then I'll give you the derogatory information about Meatball. The big conspiracy theory. I hope I'm playing it from the right spot. Is what's going on in Arizona, because this lady that testified. So I'll play that. I'll play some of this. This lady that testified that basically the Sinaloa drug cartel has infiltrated the government and it has paid bribes to a bunch of people, including Katie Hobbs. I'll start around here. This has 2.7 million views. This testimony, 2.7 million views. This tweet was viewed 5.7 million times. So this is big news. This is big conspiracy news. So let me play some of it for you.
Individuals who voted for the Democratic ticket across the board had to choose the Republican candidate for recorder against an incumbent who never suffered in scandal. Never happened. This was a planned loss. Hobbs would receive the Democratic nomination for governor, and Fontes would run for Secretary of State to replace Hobbs. The strategy appeared to have been planned. I have shown you that both Hobbs and Fontes have what we call Britney deeds, evidencing a strong likelihood that they are bribed recipients. Now, it may seem obvious, but I do feel that it's necessary to explain nonetheless. Given that Arizona is a border state and that drug smuggling and human trafficking is a billion-dollar business, it would appear that having our elected and appointed officials ensure that the cartel enterprise remain open for business would be paramount. The cartel invests substantially to ensure that the right people are in key positions so as to further their objectives. The fix for 2020 and for 2022 started in 2017 with appointment to election positions of individuals being bribed through the mortgage scheme and through monies being laundered by the appointment of phantom individuals. The problems with these documents are many. If you look at your pages 71 and 76, the recorded appointments from Fontes, which were notarized by a Jessica York, first, the handwriting and handprinting of Jessica York have been identified as belonging to Britney by our forensic document expert. Secondly, the York signatures are the same handwriting, but not the same style. And that change of style exists even when the documents were allegedly signed on the same day. You can see the June 4th documents. The December 9th date and the clerk handwriting matches Donna. The signature of the clerk at the bottom is actually a tracing of a signature stamp. The time between the signature and the notarization and alleged execution of the clerk and thereafter the recorded date evidence forgery. Normally, it's a 2 to 3 turnaround time. These took multiple months, and all were allegedly clerk executed and recorded after the election certification. I have example after example where things do not add up. In addition to state representatives, there are 3 of the 5 Maricopa County supervisors have also recorded documents evidencing the acceptance of bribes. Further, we've investigated PACs relating to state office holders and dark money transactions relating to said PACs. From late 2018 to 22, a significant number of questionable real estate transactions were facilitated by several law firms, including partners at Perkins Coie. Mr. Thaler would be here himself presenting this information, but there have been multiple attempts on his life. Thaler was driving from Arizona to California when suddenly he lost control of his vehicle. Upon investigation, it was discovered that his tire was purposefully slashed by a straight-edge knife, about 4 to 6 inches. The cut was made at such a location on the outer side of the tire where the tire would not lose air, but instead would degrade to a point causing catastrophic failure, most likely at high speed. Again, declaration is included in your packet.
Anyway, she goes on to say that everybody's gotten bribes and stuff, including like 25% of the judiciary somewhere. So and then she claims that whoever she's working with, that there were several attempts on his life, including this car incident. So it sounds, and there's somebody that's funny holding a giant crucifix there behind her. But these are people who believe the election was stolen, and then they believe all this other stuff. But if they have evidence of bribery, they just have to show it. So I'll follow the story. It was reported on, though, by the Mexican news. The Mexican news reported on it right here. Let's see. I have to translate it into English. They linked the governor of Arizona with the Sinaloa cartel. Among the statements, it was heard that the Sinaloa cartel would have bribed Governor Katie Hobbs to rig the elections. So that's what the accusations were in front of the House or whatever it is there in Arizona. So that is the crazy conspiracy theory going around. I'd have to see the evidence. It sounds kind of crazy. Sounds actually really crazy. So I'm going to say until I see more evidence, I'm going to mostly dismiss it. Do you guys want to hear trans news? This is the bad trans news and why to boycott Hershey for Women's History Month. This person was featured in this campaign by Hershey's Canada for International Women's Day. All right, I'll play that. Hershey's Canada, International Women's Day.
My name is Faye Johnstone. I'm the Executive Director of Wisdom to Action. We can create a world where everyone is able to live in public space as their honest and authentic selves. See the women changing how we see the future at Hershey's Canada. My name is Faye Johnstone.
There you go. That's Faye Johnstone, who is a 2S LGBTQIA plus advocate. God, it's gotten so long. I don't know what the 2S LGBTQIA advocate. I'll show you where it says 2S. I'm blocking it on my screen. There it says 2S LGBTQIA. So people are outraged. Hashtag boycott Hershey's is trending. So I don't think it's appropriate for something that's for women, where women are historically, they have things that are women-like about them from the way they are, from being women. And I don't think it's fair for people who just say they're women to be represented as women. That's all. I don't think it's fair. So I'm willing to stand up with women and say boycott Hershey's. I don't eat Hershey's normally, so I can't think of a time when I can choose not to eat Hershey's because it just doesn't normally happen. But all right, I have more trans videos, so I'll go through the trans news. Let's see. This is a video. Let's see. I'm not playing you the most controversial videos. There is controversial video of like men dressed as women dancing in front of like toddlers. That is very controversial. I'm not trying to freak you out though. Here's some comedy about it.
So my nephew, we're pretty sure that he's trans because he's always like crying and stuff like that. What age is it okay to start transitioning?
Wouldn't you just ask him?
Well, he can't speak yet. Right now, he's only a week and a half old.
You should wait and ask him.
But do you think that he's giving us codes by always crying to say like, hey, I'm a chick?
How would you...
What would be some of the signs other than crying and not paying for meals and stuff that it might be a girl?
I don't really know. I figure it would be something that you would want to ask the person.
But you were pretty sure he's trans. Maybe once it can speak, if it starts being like really naggy, then you're like, okay, that might be a woman.
You're thinking of this as a feminine behavior, or that's a masculine behavior.
Yeah, the crying all the time over nothing. And then I have another nephew that's like pretty chill, like for the boys. So I'm pretty sure that's accurately gendered.
I wouldn't know that, but I definitely think you'd want to check with a doctor.
Maybe the dude's crying because he watched Under Siege and there was the scene at the end. So there was like a totally reasonable guy reason for him to be crying.
I would just go raise your kid in a gendered fashion.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate the advice. So it was nice meeting you. So my nephew, we're pretty sure that he's...
That's Ryan Long comedy. Sorry. So I have trans news. What other trans news did I have? I had somebody else speaking on some talk show. Oh, I have this. Someone being asked what a woman is. And it just gives the craziest answer possible. So since we're in the trans segment of the show, this is What is a woman?
What is a valid response to the question of what is a woman? Womanhood is a social construct. It's not it's definitive based on time and culture. So people always argue like, oh, womanhood is not a social construct, but what womanhood is based on, our past versus now has changed versus, what womanhood is for us versus other cultures. So case in point, the color blue wasn't associated with men until in, I think, the 40s. And men wore pink for a while as well. And so the fact that like it's just so fluid within history and different cultures is a testament to the fact that it's a social construct. And being a social construct means that it is very much individualized, that it's not stagnant. So I guess I would start there. And also that like womanhood can't even be defined because gender is a social construct, and gender currently is defined by white dominant culture of the binary. Any binary in and of self, but especially gender, it's all colonization. Like it's the erasure of everybody else. Like even sex is a spectrum. I'm like, there's very little in human behavior that's absolute or black and white, no pun intended. So why should that be limited, to everything else but gender and sexuality and all the things? So yeah, like.
Yes, it's very complicated. Yeah, it's a construct. How can it be Women's History Month? That's what I'm curious about. How can it even be Women's History Month if we don't know what a woman is? Like, who are we talking about? So I'd like to ask. It's like, okay, so we can't even say. I mean, that was her response. We can't even say what a woman is. Okay, well, you got to. So what are the people saying? Like, what are they saying they are? You're saying you're representing women. What is that? But you're saying that you can't define that? I mean, it's so wild. So anyway, that's that. Gender news. Just to make you sad. And then I have more trans news, which is that a girls basketball team withdrew from a state tournament because they were going to have to play a team with a transgender player who apparently dominates and like blocks shots like crazy. And a 6'1". Basketball is one where I'm just waiting for this sports thing to come, for people to come around. I mean, when it comes to basketball, men are taller. So there's definitely an unfair advantage there. You could argue in swimming and stuff that it doesn't matter how tall you are, but it does. But in basketball, if you're tall, you can be really tall and not even that athletic and pretty good at basketball just because you're tall. So anyway, this girls team withdrew from a tournament because there was some trans person. Oh, okay, so that's that story. I think that's all I think that's everything. That's all the trans news. I had Scott Adams saying something. Scott Adams got himself in trouble. He's saying everything's good. Scott Adams says everything's good. He says only dying leftist fake news industry canceled me. Social media and banking unaffected. So he hasn't lost his banking yet. Personal life improved. Never been more popular in my life. Zero pushback in person. Black and white conservatives solidly supporting me. I thought this was funny. Oh, damn.
A lot of the news cycle is run by the race grifters, and
I think
interestingly, two race grifters from the anti-Semitic world have come over to join in the attack because they're race grifters. So the race grifters have to get in on any of these topics, right? And they're always going to be on the same side. Yeah, Al Sharpton. I think Al Sharpton weighed in today. So all of the race grifters are going to get in. But the funny part is that Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL, like the Jewish community, I think, was feeling left out because I said literally nothing about them whatsoever. And I'm one of the biggest supporters of the Jewish community, huge supporter of Israel. And I think they were just left out because the grifters, like all the black race grifters were like having a heyday. And they're like, yeah, this is good. And the Jewish race grifters were like, hey, I got to get in on this. So they looked around and they found something long ago that I'd said, essentially, it must be really hard to count the number of dead from the Holocaust. So whether it's 5 million or 10 million, it's the same story, right? It doesn't change anything if you're off by 500,000, right? Nothing changes. But that got turned into Holocaust denier. Is there anybody thinks you could count accurately all the dead from World War II in any category? You know, whether it's the Jewish dead or any other dead, do you think you can get an accurate count from World War II? No. Now, of course, I'm saying this again, and that'll get turned into he's Holocaust denier. I've never met anybody who denied the Holocaust. Have you? Have you ever even met like a real person?
There are some
who
people.
denied that it even happened. You actually have. Some people have. All right. Well, I've never even met one. I've never even met one. To me, it's just crazy. But so today I'm being accused of that.
So he's
because the race.
I got accused of being a Holocaust denier for exactly the same reason. So 6 million is like they estimated, but so they made an estimate, and if you say it's any less than what they said, then you're a Holocaust denier. If you question it, if you're like, oh, I think, if you say, like, I guess Scott Adams might have said it might have been 5 million, even if you say that, it might have been 5 million. They'll be like, you get hit with the label Holocaust denier. So I thought that was funny, even though he's a big supporter of Israel and all that stuff. But going after Greenblatt and the ADL. Finally, I have derogatory information about Meatball, Ron DeSantis. So let me give you a clip. Let's see.
And tried to put my paraphernalia in that. I'm the most pro-Israel governor in America. You think those people like me? They don't like me. Give me a break. One of the first things I did as governor was do Airbnb to BDS and said, you're out of here if you continue with this. And we beat them. We did our first trade mission that I did was to the state of Israel. And we signed the strongest bill combating anti-Semitism at our universities that any state has been able to do. And I was criticized for doing that. But yes, I think part of it is because it's Florida, because it's me, they want to try to create narratives as if somehow this. So what I would say is, don't give the media any oxygen on this stuff. You have some of these bozos out there. These people are fringe of society. They have no following in the state of Florida. We've done, from the time I've been governor, very strong. We've done probably 15 million over my first 4 years for security for our Jewish day schools, because if they're going to be targeted, you're going to wish you didn't target them, because we're going to fight back. And we'll keep doing that. But there's real serious attacks on Jews in this country, primarily in the New York City area, where you have attacks based on status happening very frequently. And I think it's a result of the lack of concern with law enforcement generally. But then it's kind of a woke idea that, Jews aren't kind of who we're worried about. We're worried about other groups more, and that's just a stupid way to view it. But if you look at all the crimes based on status It's like over half are against Jews, many of them Orthodox Jews. Very small percentage of the population. But I think our record, you're way better off being in Florida than in the New York area with what's been going on. And we'll continue to be very, very strong. But I would push back when they're trying to whip up some type of fake frenzy and act like this is representative. I could go to Pensacola, Panhandle, very few Jewish people there. And if you talk about moving the embassy.
There you go. So there's him talking about, he does love Jewish people and he is pro-Zionist and he has enacted laws against BDS and stuff on college campuses and stuff too. So, and I disagree with most of that stuff, although I don't know. Well, yeah, this stuff is crazy. People are sharing this. Ron DeSantis is a bit of a tyrant in certain ways, like banning books and stuff, right? He might be correct in some cases, but he is kind of tyrannical. So this is one of his sheriffs in Florida.
Holding people accountable without, violating their free speech.
Sure. And again, I would remind you that there's no First Amendment right to conduct. There's a First Amendment right to speech. And the things that we're targeting in the bill are not speech. Again, if someone wants to stand across the street from my house and wave a sign on the sidewalk, they have every right to do that. And this bill won't have anything to do with that. But when it veers into conduct, and so the way we're going to approach this is through a hate crime kicker. So if you graffiti a building, it is a crime now. But if your motivation is hate, it will be a third-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in prison. If you want to litter, it's a crime right now. But if you litter and if your motivation is a hate crime, it will be a third-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in jail. It is a crime right now to hang banners from an interstate. For obvious reasons, we don't want to distract drivers. But if you do that and you have a hate crime, a hate motivation, it will be a third-degree felony. You will spend 5 years in jail.
How optimistic are you of moving this bill along?
I guarantee the bill will pass. And I never do that.
There you go. So he guarantees the bill will pass. They'll make it illegal and a felony to do things like what the Goyim Defense League does. The Goyim Defense League is big. They project things on buildings with lasers and stuff. If you guys don't know them, that's Handsome Truth is the guy that heads them up. They're a big deal all around the country. In San Diego and also in Florida, they do stunts. They project things on buildings. Anyway, it's probably because of them that they're enacting these laws, making it so if you hang a sign over the freeway that says Kanye was right, like they did, then that would be a felony now. And apparently they're going to pass the law. And it's probably because, it's probably mostly because of anti-Jewish stuff. That's what I would guess. But litter, if you litter in a racist way somehow. So that's going on in Florida. And then here's another report from Florida that says a Florida bill will require bloggers who write about the governor to register with the state. I have to look into that. So it is kind of a tyrannical place. But DeSantis still has a good chance. He's like even odds right now. Even odds. All right, I'll check if I'm scared. I'll check to see if I got any coffees. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. We got a few people tuned in by the end of the show. Let's see if anybody donated anything today. Hobo Tommy, thank you. Hobo Tommy got 10 coffees. Thanks. I wonder if that's because that caller got the other day. Thanks, Hobo Tommy. I appreciate it. And then Al Shizzle got 10 coffees too. Oh, that's crazy. Did you catch Eric Weinstein on Rogan? He seems fed up and believes it could be a fake alien invasion. Did I watch Eric Weinstein? I'm not sure. Somebody else was just on Rogan too. Okay, should I open up the phone? Do we have enough people tuned in? I can open up the phone just for a second, in case anybody wants to call in. And if you want to support the show, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. But I'm going to have to start doing some other work probably. 650-429-8294. We have to get the right conspiracy theory. The right conspiracy theory has to come up. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, is this 650 Gay Taxi?
Yeah, you got it.
Hey, what's up, Nathan?
Hey.
Hey, this is Freedom Lover.
Hey, Freedom Lover. Freedom Lover 69, right?
Dude, that's the one. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I remember. What's up, man?
Hey, nothing much. Great show tonight. I caught it towards kind of the end of it. It was, so I guess you were talking about some Jewish stuff tonight, huh?
Oh, only a little bit. Only a little bit. I was just talking about how DeSantis really likes them. And also, what was the other part of news about? Oh, and then Scott Adams was calling out some Jewish stuff. So I did comment on that.
That's right.
Yeah, I commented just because Scott Adams says they were calling him a Holocaust denier, and I was called a Holocaust denier. So I played that, and then I rolled into DeSantis saying nice things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched that episode you put out with DeFango and how you're apparently a Holocaust denier. So I thought it was pretty interesting, this episode. But what was funny is he made that argument about like how you go to a car crash and it's like, oh, 6 people died. It's like,
right.
Oh, no.
All right.
It was only 3 people that died.
Right.
Like you're a car crash denier.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that was so great.
I know. That's what they do, I guess. I mean, that's what it's become. It's in the past, like people have written books and stuff. Like there are like prominent people in the past who've said that maybe it was less. But now if you say that, it's like you're automatically labeled a Holocaust denier. So yeah, that's what happened to Scott Adams, I guess. He was just joking about it.
Well, that's funny. Yeah, man, I remembered I hated you so bad for 1 second. And then I remembered because you brought it up in a previous episode about like how you were for masks, like how they were working and stuff. I listened to your show and I was like, man, what? Why? Nathan? My boy?
That's true. That's true. I was in support. You know, sometimes I have the wrong opinion about things, but I figured it out though. I mean, there wasn't a lot of data at first, so.
I'm the exact same way. Sometimes I have the wrong opinion too.
Yeah, it happens to me more than I'd like. So,
what was your logic in the beginning? Because mine was like particulates, like maybe
Yeah, I figured I was like, oh well, maybe it reduces the spread. Yeah, like because you're breathing out through your nose and mouth, maybe it reduces how much stuff gets out there.
You'd think it had to, right?
I thought.
At least like overall.
Yeah, I mean, but then, once the evidence came out that it didn't work, then I came around.
I think it only matters if you're sick, right?
Theoretically you have to be sick and then it reduces, but apparently not with a cloth mask. And even with an N95, apparently it doesn't do much with this particular virus, at least.
Interesting. Well, that's cool. Well, hey man, you're still taking Cash App, right?
Yeah.
What's your Cash App?
$LTV411.
All right. $LTV411. All right, man. Can you write anything on the Cash App?
Yeah, you can write something.
Oh, cool. All right, man. Well, have a great night.
Thanks,
it's raining
man.
in Austin.
Is it? All right. Cool, man. Talk to you later.
Bye.
All right. That's cool. Somebody calling from Austin. 650-429-8294. Thanks, people who gave me the coffees. Thanks, Hobo Tommy and Al Shizzle. I really appreciate it. You guys are nice. Yeah, sorry I didn't do a show yesterday. I just didn't have the material. So I'm just doing my best to bring you guys stuff that you'll be interested in. So I appreciate people who give me support. So I saw somebody else drop $5 on Rockfin, even though it's not showing up. DB Cooper the third, who said, okay, hashtag me too, your turn for draft. Ladies, equality, equity, stand up for Ukraine. Yeah, that's right. Women are going to get drafted this time. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Nate, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. Jim from Baltimore. Hey, I think I'm gonna boycott Hershey's everything, and
It is
I hate
crazy.
doing that because I use the chocolate syrup, but like in my milk. But like I gotta find a new brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty messed. It is pretty messed up. You got to stand up for women out there, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like this, it's for, like my thoughts are for the women because like they're all being like shoved in a trash can.
Yeah, it's weird that with men, it's like totally different. Like men don't complain that much about trans men. And now actually it's more trans men is like the thing that's really popular apparently with the kids.
It's
So,
way too popular.
but no trans man wins man of the year. It's always women. It's always the trans women that get all the attention. So, yeah, weird.
Yeah. Well, do you think trans women will become the man of the year?
Well,
woman?
I
Trans
mean,
woman?
I think they didn't somebody, or didn't that happen already?
Oh my
Or was
God.
it Babylon B was making a joke about it? Babylon B made a joke about it, but I thought it might have really happened.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yep, it is crazy.
Yeah, man. Like I heard this onto another topic. The Holocaust. I heard from somebody that it was hundreds of thousands.
That's
and
what,
like they
yeah, there's some estimates where people say it was, I don't know if it was that low or anything.
from the Red
but
Cross.
yeah, there was some kind of like Red Cross numbers people cite
Yeah.
where it was like 240,000 or something like that.
I mean, I'd
But-
think it'd be probably more than that. I don't know, but like, who knows how many people die in wars, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Scott Adams says, like, as a matter of fact, it would be hard to count. I know I talked to somebody who says that he can confirm that it was at least 6 million, but there are very few people who have like it's hard because they burned all the bodies, right? So
Yeah.
it's really hard.
I mean, like, I guess the way they could count it is to figure out all the relatives of these people that died in the Holocaust.
Right.
But then again, there's going to be a lot of bullshitters and whatever. But yeah, man. Hey, have you been checking in on Ohio? And like, people are pretty mad. I mean,
Yeah, some
really.
people are sick from the fumes. Like people who are really close to it are sick. I've been checking in on it. I played a video from it. This one guy with a really high pitched voice who's kind of screwed up from the whole thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video. I think maybe on your show. Oh man, that's pretty crazy. My friend in Louisiana, I saw her picture that she put up on Facebook of some water that had some kind of rainbow sheen to it.
Yeah, that's going on too.
And she said that it came from the bottom up, and it came up from the bottom.
Yeah.
And like, like she didn't even want to think about it. She didn't even like agree with me and think about any of that. And I'm just like, yeah, like that's what they've been showing with the fallout of this poison.
Yeah, I mean the local water is definitely polluted. And I think people who breathed in the air when there was all that smoke and stuff are definitely
and the fact
affected.
that it's Louisiana, though, that's fucking crazy. I mean, I wonder, it could be something else. But
That's weird. Yeah, that is
how
weird.
far is Louisiana from Ohio?
Really
I guess
far. Really far.
Yeah.
There would be no reason for it to happen there. So, that's
think,
interesting.
right?
So your friend is saying it's happening in Louisiana. Oh, I thought they were
Well,
sharing.
like I saw the picture, and she was trying to explain what it was coming from the bottom and raising up, like as she walked through the stream.
Right.
And I just kind of immediately connected the dots, but she said it's probably not that because she's so far from Ohio or something like that.
Yeah, right. It shouldn't be related, but the water could be polluted lots of places.
Oh yeah, man, like totally. Anyway, I'll let you get to the next caller, bro.
Thanks, Jim.
Have a good evening, man.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
All right. That's cool. Okay. What are we going to talk about tomorrow? I have to think about it. We'll see. Sometimes the show's early on Fridays. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Nathan, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much.
So I had a comment, I guess, about the transgender people.
Okay.
And, it might be controversial, so, feel free to cut me off. But, at the end of the day, I feel bad for those people. And, I consider it a mental illness, the same way that, you have someone else has some sort of other mental issue, says some stuff that, is kind of out there, and you don't bully those people, you're not mean to them, you don't crucify them.
Mm-hmm.
You just try and treat them appropriately. But the issue is that the mainstream media and society is holding these people up as if they're like heroes or role models and making it almost like a fashion statement.
Yeah. I mean, one of the problems I see is that, like, if you're a young person, is you get social status from it, like extra social status, and that's not good because you don't want there to be incentives basically to be trans. And so, but some people, I don't know. I know they say it's really offensive to call it a mental illness, but it is a condition of some sort where you think you're a different gender than you are. If you think you're a different gender than you are, then that's some kind of mental condition, which exists. And those people shouldn't be harassed or anything. I don't think. I'm not into that. And they should have equal rights that the rest of us have, but not sex-based rights. That's all. So, but I agree that you shouldn't be mean to them.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I mean, in my eyes, and this might be a stretch of an analogy here, but imagine if the next big thing, it was, hip and hop to become Down syndrome. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, I identify as Down syndrome. It's like, well, that's great. I'm not knocking any points off of you, but, it's, hopefully you can find yourself in whatever you're doing. And, you hit on the point exactly, you hit the nail on the head, where there's almost like social incentives for people to come out as trans or, whatever it is they want to do. And it's like, almost society wants to hold these people up on a pedestal where it's like, hey, I don't think that we should knock these people. They're, people like you and I are, but don't take something that, is obviously a delusion and then, post these people up. And if anything, you're hurting them.
Right.
It's like if I came out and said, I believe I'm a Martian, I'm from Mars, and, there's a birth certificate record of my birth and, a whole paper trail of my life. And then, the media says, well, we don't really know if that's true. It's really your personal identity. And we're going to go with what you say, almost it's detrimental, to that person that you're really holding that stuff up for.
Right. Because you're encouraging them to do something that's not true. Right. Yeah. But I'll tell you, like, an example of what you said is people kids from watching TikTok start to think they have Tourette's, and they'll go to the doctor and they'll say they have Tourette's. Right. And the doctor will say, no, you don't have Tourette's. You've just been watching too much TikTok. And they'll talk them out of it. Right. And there are other weird conditions like that where it's like a social contagion where they're watching videos and they all of a sudden they think they have some kind of disease or illness that they don't really have. And if they go to the doctor will tell them, oh no, you don't have Tourette. You don't really have Tourette. But with trans, the same thing could happen. They could be watching TikTok and then suddenly think they're trans. And the doctor has to say, oh yeah, that's right. You are, you have always been a woman, or you have always.
Well, and the doctors nowadays don't even have a choice. So even if the doctor, wants to say, hey, why don't, you go to therapy or something like that, as far as I've seen, there's some doctors in some states that aren't even allowed to say that to patients anymore.
Yeah, right. You're required to affirm. I know, it's crazy. It's maybe the craziest thing that we're doing right now.
But anyway, just want to call in and, say I appreciate you and, keep up the good work. And, that was my comment.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate the call.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too. See ya. That's cool. That's nice. Yeah. It's definitely a mental condition of some sort. And the people are talked out of mental conditions, except for being trans, which where you're encouraged. And so we'll see how it works out. I don't think it's going to work out well. You guys should definitely watch Affirmation Generation on Vimeo, which is a new movie about how they say up to 10% of kids identify as trans. I don't think it's quite that high, but they say like some places, apparently it's like 9 or 10% of teens identify as trans, which is crazy. But even a lot of places, it's like 2%. 2% is crazy. 2 in 100 people are trans. It used to be so rare. So yeah, it has turned into and then people identify as LGBT has turned into a crazy thing. It's like everybody wants to be LGBT. So people say they're bisexual, even though they're just hetero. People be trans, but but they have heterosexual sex. So there are all these LGBT people now who identify as LGBT, but they don't even have gay sex ever. Bunch of people say they're bi now. That's what they're saying. People say they're bi, but all these bi people, they're finding out these people that say they're bisexual actually don't do anything gay. They just say they're bisexual to get the label, basically. And it makes sense. There's benefits in it. I mean, corporate boards are supposed to be diverse. Everybody's got diversity quotas. So just say you're bi. I don't know. I don't know what would stop somebody from saying they're bisexual to get ahead in life. If they don't have to do anything gay, they don't even have to be gay. Or saying they're non-binary if they don't have to act any different. I can go to the DMV in California. Self-ID is so crazy. I can go to the DMV in California and say I'm non-binary, and they can put that on my license. I can say I'm a female without anything, and they'll just change my license. I was thinking about doing it just to prove a point. You don't have to do anything. You can just say I'm a woman or I'm non-binary, and they'll confirm you legally. And then what did non-binary people do about restrooms? Are non-binary people allowed to use either one? Oh, I'm non-binary, so I can go to the women's or the men's locker rooms. I don't even understand. We live in such a weird world. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thanks. Thank you. Everyone who donated to the show today. Thank you, Hobo Tommy and Al Shizzle especially. But thanks, Nomad Deluxe, too. And then thanks, Michelle Obama as a man. I saw your tip, who says the Murdaugh story is crazy. Check the Netflix series out. Okay, I will. I watch things on Netflix. So, I got a few more. Rip the Veil got a coffee. Thank you. I appreciate that. And someone bought a coffee, says, been watching you since you got surrounded at that one rally. I'll never forget that. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Someone, that was a long time ago. The Pizzagate rally. Thanks, someone who bought a coffee. And thanks, Rip the Veil. Appreciate that. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, if you're looking for a good show, the series on HBO called White Lotus is really good. I think it's really good, actually. Been watching that lately. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Nathan, it's Rip the Veil.
Hey, Rip the Veil. What's up? Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah, I just wanted to just give a short call just because I just heard you talking about trans stuff. And I just think it just depends on where you're at. Like if you're in a liberal area or if you're in a corporate setting, then yeah, that could help you. But I think there's also, because of all this stuff, there's already a big reaction sort of taking place. People who are just reactionaries. And then, every time, Tucker Carlson or Libs of TikTok talks about a hospital or whatever, they'll get like attacked and stuff. And I'm sure there's like nasty stuff on that side too. So depending on the situation, like it wouldn't serve you, but you know, depending on the situation, it could serve you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, trans people are put up on a pedestal a little bit. Even Blair White, you know, she's getting a little pushback now, or if you want to say he, whatever. Now people are pushing back on Blair White because it is weird that conservatives are mostly so kind of anti-trans, or they just say they don't believe it or whatever, but then they do accept people who are trans when it's convenient, you know, like Blair and like the decathlete Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, and when it comes to, sorry to cut you off, but when it comes to like the whole mental disorder thing, I just think it's like, I mean, to a certain extent, like everybody has some sort of mental disorder, something in their mind that's not ordered the way that it should be. So it's like, how do you measure? I mean, ADHD, like I probably could, I mean, when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with ADHD, but my mom didn't want me to go on the meds. So I learned how to live in life, you know, without meds. So I don't really identify as somebody with, I don't want to have a disorder. And I actually just think it's just a behavioral thing. Like, you know, you maybe don't fit in a classroom setting the same way as other people, but that means you have like other talents, right? So I don't even want to call that a disorder, the same way that, you know, I have a coworker and it's a trans woman, and you know, when she uses the bathroom, like biological born a man, but acts like a woman, and not completely. I mean, you can tell, but the thing is, like, it would almost be weird because we all just kind of act like she's a woman and just go along with it, and it's fine. And you know, I don't really mind doing that, but I just think it's weird when you kind of when you call it a disorder, because this person, you know, they do really well at their job. Like they're very smart, and, you know, in marketing, they manage the emails and stuff. So, you know, I don't have a reason to say that this person has a disorder. That's almost like invading their personal life for me to say that they have a disorder. I think that's a little too much to go ahead and say. So then when you get to that point, it does leave me a little bit like, I don't know where to stand on this, because it would be weird if we were trying to limit them from being in the bathroom that they want to, because it just seems like it works naturally. But then on the other hand, I totally understand. You don't want like people just acting like they're women with penises. And I don't know how we figure this out, like in women's locker rooms, you know? That's ridiculous, but
yeah, it's weird because Blair White just put out she just put out a Twitter thing where she was like, oh, people say I should use the men's room, right? And Blair White really passes well as a woman. So she said when she uses the men's room, they kick her out. Like they're like, get out of here. You're a woman, you know? And I understand that it's true. It's like, would you tell it's this weird thing where people who pass as trans get more leeway than people who don't pass. Because if someone seems like a woman, then you might think, oh, actually, it is normal for them to use the ladies' room, you know, because they seem like a woman, and it would be weird for them to use the men's room. But then there are perverts. Then there are men who are perverts and who take advantage of the situation. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, it leaves me in a spot where I'm like, I have yet to hear a true, well thought out intellectual perspective on this. It's not just one sided, you know? So that's just where I'm at. And I don't know. It's like one of those things. It's like, I don't know how to figure this out, you know, but that's all I got to say.
All right, cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. See ya. Yeah. To me, the craziest part is self-ID. That's one of the craziest parts. But men and women's prisons, men and women's sports, all that stuff. I don't think it'll last forever. So, but I'm in California. I read something how somebody wanted to make it that you could identify as black in California, even if you're not black. I don't know if this is true. I have this that says California law to let people self-identify as black and Latino, and maybe even as handicap, as disabled. You might be able to identify as disabled, Black, or Latino, even if you're not. I don't know if this is true. This is from the California Family Council. They say, though, you can identify in California, you can self-identify as Black. So I'm interested in all the things you're allowed to do by law. All right, cool. Yes, lots of complicated issues. Thanks for the thoughtful phone calls. Thanks very much for the support for the show. And I will do my best to do a show for you tomorrow. It might be early, like around 4 p.m. because sometimes I go out to dinner with Katie on Friday nights. So thanks everybody who called in. Thanks for the tips. And that's it. Okay, we'll see you at the next one. For now, that's what it is.